Hello, everybody. This is Raymond, and I'm going to talk to you today about Dallas County's basically its rise and its fall. And we're definitely, as you well know, in its fall. And I have no solutions, and I really don't have, I have no blame, particularly on anybody that's down there right now. I mean, y'all are just holding on, and it's tough, you know. It's absolutely tough. So here we are, Wikipedia, a place that I thought would never be doubted, but here we are. But y'all can go ahead and doubt it all you want. I'm a mild donor, so there you go. Yeah. Anyway, so let's go ahead and look at some of the facts on here, and that's the demographics and the population. That's all I'm really going to look at today. At the I guess we can kind of look over here just briefly. Like this was a write-up in 2000. You can tell nobody's really cared to add anything more because things are really heading on the down there. I probably ought to write a 220 synopsis or something like that, but maybe I'll get around to it. But you can see where that is. So yeah, let's look at the racial demographics just a little bit here. 56% white, 40% black. That has changed, and my report has African Americans exceeding the white population now, but I think it's just, I mean, it's real close. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the 2030 one. You know, that will be. I don't know if there'll be anybody left for it to even, you know, for that to even be significant. No, there's not any. I mean, you know, definitely not. You know, having a problem down here with the your jobs being taken away from the Hispanic folks, right? By the Hispanic folks, I don't see that happening. Although I have seen some of them driving some equipment through. So I'm just saying, I don't have a dog in that fight. But I find it interesting that there's not a significant Hispanic population in the area, but there's not, and there are in some southern Arkansas towns. So anyway, I find that interesting. No, not very. I mean, I guess somebody who's claiming to be Native American. I'm kidding. I'm sure there's one out there too. So, although a lot of people claim Native American history that are ancestry and don't have it. But, all right, so let's just look at this. I have a little report over here that I will refer to a little bit. We can kind of look at it just a little bit here. This is the 1850s. It was a majority white population with a significant black population. In fact, and the 1860s is very, very similar. Okay, so pre-Civil War. In fact, I have some real good details on this. Let's go over and look at this. It's not. This was during the big days of Tulip. Come check it out sometime and read this. I will tell you that this sign here is absolutely not true. It never had a chance. It was never. There's nothing. I mean, there is nothing in any records anywhere about Tulip being a possible county, or not county, state capital. So that just was. This is not. I don't believe this is true. Now that doesn't mean that it wasn't an important place, and it certainly was. It had a military institute, which I'll do some. I'll do a video or something like that, or a report on that at some point. And so Tulip was really important at the time, and so was Princeton. Princeton had a women's college there. Any of y'all that look into this stuff, if you're checking out the Mallet House, that's not it. They do a whole story on the Mallet House with this picture. And I saw the Mallet House before it was deconstructed in the 80s, and it was a two-story huge plantation house, which this is not. And it didn't have a lick of paint on it because it was just impossible to get that amount of paint down there. And it was beautiful, and it's my understanding it was deconstructed and maybe reconstructed somewhere by the Mallet family in Texas. So I'd love to know more about that if somebody knows about it, but I am certain that is not the Mallet House, and it is gone now. I mean, I've been to the property where it is, so it is absolutely gone. So anyway, this is really interesting that and I have told them about this, but they're not interested in listening to me. That's isn't that Dallas County of them. So, but this is something from Central Arkansas Library System, and they're just not interested. So that's okay. Go ahead and leave that out there. Anybody that's truly interested will find the truth. Okay, so let's look at these. And the Mallets were he was an important person during that time. He was a tailor and made a lot of money. And next to him was Silas Jones, who was actually a free African American, I believe, about the only one. And I will do a special on him at some point. He was a cobbler. And so they were right next to each other, making all kinds of money off of the community at the time. And Silas was very important. I mean, there's legislation that was actually mentioned Silas back in those days. So he was an important part of the community. Things were more complex than we like to think. So let's look at, what do I have here? Okay, so this was the number of this is the number of white people that were in the census. And when I say white people, well, because they weren't putting black people in it. So how do we know how many black people are in it? Well, we have a pretty good idea. Now, I will tell you this, people dodge the census. They still do what they did then. So the numbers probably are a little lower than they actually were in all of these things, with the slaves as well. Okay, so, and then here, this should pull up, yeah, this is called the slave schedule. So this is all of the black folks that were here. And now, obviously, there's not a name, okay? But I hate to break it to you, but if you're a black person and your last name, it matches up with somebody on here, it's very likely that you came from that plantation, and there may be some relation between you and that family. It's almost very likely, to be honest. So, yeah, things, that's the things that no one really wants to hear from me, but it's just, I mean, here it is. It's plain as day. As we go through some of the, these things, you'll see this. So if you're interested in this and need to find your family's name in this, I'm here to help a little bit. I'll be honest with you. I don't like to help as much as I used to, because people don't like the results sometimes. So be prepared. If you're prepared for the results, I'm all for it. So let me know. All right, that's the 1850s, and then the 1860s also show pretty much the same sort of thing here. Here is, we had about, a little bit of a growth here. Not a lot. Now, what was going on, and these people, where did they came from? Most of these people came from Tennessee, Alabama, and what they were doing was they were moving west as they were wearing out the soil, because cotton, which is what they were, most of these plantations were mostly cotton growing. Cotton wears out the soil, and so they would just keep moving west. Why did everybody land in Arkansas and not keep going? Well, because the Civil War hit. And after the Civil War, the plantation world was over with, and we kind of stagnated where we were. And as we'll see, there's a lot of timber here to work with. So, yeah, and here's all the black folks that were here then too. So let's show that. These are obviously the slave owners. And I don't have it here handy, but I did what's called a word cloud, and it kind of basically outs the biggest slave owners and things like that. I may do a report on that at some point. See how angry I can make make their descendants. So it is what it is. It is what it is, as everybody likes to say. So sometimes it's not what you want to see. So all right. Anyway, all right. So let's get out of the Civil War, because that wasn't really good for us down here. The Civil War, I need to do some videos on that and whatnot, but the Civil War was a really bad time, particularly for Dallas County, and we lost a lot of folks down here. Yeah, and let's go to my report. report real quick here and read about this. This is, yeah, the Civil War disrupted the economy, leading to significant hardships, war-related disruptions, and the loss of labor force. All right, everything changed really. The end of slavery altered the social structure. Things shifted to sharecropping and tenant farming on all that land because the land wasn't taken away. It wasn't taken away from the plantation owners. So that 40 acres and a mule didn't necessarily come about for a lot of these people, and a lot of times they had to basically tenant farm, and then they might have gotten a little bit of land, but they didn't get much. All right. Freedmen stayed in the area due to economic constraints. I mean, where else do you go? When you don't, you don't have a lot of opportunities and whatnot. So 1870s was probably a pretty rough time in Dallas County, and you can see that the population was down. Now, what happened there was, a lot of the men had gone off to war or were actually died in the war around the area too, and not just the men. I mean, it was I had a family situation. My great grandfather was Ben Franklin Nutt, and I'll do a special on him. And he was he was murdered by the community. I mean, there's no other way to put it. So yeah, good place back then. Hopefully we've improved. It's been really interesting to see how all those old stories, and a lot of families have these bad things happen to them during that time, and that was people tried to get over it, and they also tried to cover up these stories too. So you might dig around in your family and see what kind of skeletons you'll come up with. So they're likely there. The 1880s, the African Americans formed a large portion of the population here. The timber industry started to grow. This was also when people came in. The carpetbaggers started coming in. I have that I think in the next section, but that's what they were called. They'd come in with these fancy suitcases that looked like carpets and stuff, and that's what they. I think the Benton family in my own area is what we would call a carpetbagger, although the folks in that area aren't really familiar with that. But when they came in post-war and weren't in the area before that. Now, there are two different Benton families, so if you're from another one and you think you've been here longer, you very likely have. Let's see. So anyway, so what happens there, right? They're really pulling our timber out of the woods, basically for the next, I don't know, ever really, even into World War I. Let's look at the numbers over here. I like to look back at these, so more precise ones. So yeah, you can see there's a really large. Look at that. You don't do that on your own. People moved in here, right? People absolutely were moving in during this time here. Now this is some just kind of good growth and whatnot, and this area, this time right here, this is when Princeton was voted out as the county seat, and that was a real dubious thing. We ought to do a little thing on that one, but Fordyce became the county seat mostly because of the railroad coming through. Now, and so there was some growth from that. Now, I think I mentioned this in the report. Timber going good, agricultural products during World War I. But then the 20s starts, okay? We start having some out-migration, especially by African Americans, and this kind of continues for a while. Cotton prices start going down. It's basically the beginnings. We're starting to see the beginnings of the Depression start, and then the Depression hits. And this is my family was devastated financially during this time. I think many people's were. So yeah, it was definitely just not a good time. And so people, let's look at the population back there in 1930. Yeah, so it's it's not growing anymore. It's starting to go down a little bit. Now the war hits, and it didn't have a huge impact, but that's it. That's the beginning of. I mean, we just start having minuses from here on out. Okay, what happened? I mean, well, people had other opportunities. Yeah, urban migration and shrinking labor needs in rural industry. So what happened? I mean, specifically, I mean, one of my families particularly, although I think it happened even in the Owens family, but in my nut folks, a lot of them moved to like Michigan and got jobs in the auto industry and whatnot. I know that's also true for a lot of the African American families. I mean, right now people, can move between family members and stuff. I don't think they do that quite as much as they used to. I know the Jimerson family. I've done a thing on their plantation, the plantation owners of the Jimerson or the Jameson plantation. But the Jimerson family, they moved to Las Vegas, and they're all over Las Vegas, and I think California. Cooksies are very similar. I mean, they're just all moved all over the place. So that started happening after the war, and it continued on in the 50s. I mean, what would happen is somebody would get, a good job, right? Somebody in your family get a good job, get a kind of a leg up in one of these industrial areas, and then move more of the family up there and whatnot, and things, that happened. And that happened not just among the African Americans, but it happened with both races, and so people were moving. People were moving out. Why? Because they're wanting more. They're wanting more money. They're wanting maybe more things to do. There's just never been anything to do down there really. 70s. Let's look at that. The racial split becomes almost 50-50. Kind of stays that way, doesn't it? And there's just basically a constant decline here. Let's go back to the Wikipedia. I like this little graphic here. Kind of shows everything, right? So here we go. Yeah, the 50s were and 60s were really brutal, on the county. Now, we did have a little hop in. This is when I was a kid down here. And I remember the place was kind of, I don't know, it seemed like Dallas County was kind of hopping. Camden was a nice place to go. There was things to do. And I was a Little Rock boy. So I was certainly not bored down here, And so I don't know. I mean, it looked like there was something going on in the 80s. I think it was just, I know, there was the plant was really going well. The lumber mill was going well at the time. Yeah, what happened? So, but actually, okay. So, trying to think. I guess it was just, the decline of things. I guess we started. I know we had a little bit of we had a recession, of course, and we had a problem with housing and stuff in the late 80s, so maybe that's what kind of shut the mills down. Then the Koch brothers actually bought the mill out and just flattened it. That was that. No more. That's Fordyce anyway. Carthage still has quite a mill operation. That's about all they do have, though, isn't it? So what else do we have here? So there we go. Just constant decline. Wow, I think there's just nothing for anybody at this point. Let's see what I have in. African Americans have become the majority proportionally due to slower out migration. Okay, just barely, but. Yeah, that's kind of, and then these are economic difficulties. There's no jobs down here, lack of healthcare infrastructure. So if you're an older person, you used to stay down in Dallas County, didn't you? But now you have to drive. You got to drive to Little Rock. I mean, I know my aunt and uncle suffered down there. I say, they should. I tried to get them out of there. My mom desperately tried to get them out of there, and we needed to get them out of there because they weren't in good health, and you can't live down there and be in bad health because of the infrastructure. It's just, and that was a big population down there, was the elderly population that was holding on to their homes and their ways of life and whatnot, and not wanting to move on. And I certainly understand that. But now that it's, for myself, I would love to move out there and retire one day, but it's just not, it's not tenable, not unless things change dramatically, and I don't think they will. So. And then let's project ourselves here, likely below 6,000 by the decade's end, okay? And so let's just look back at these numbers, okay? Look where we started. Look where we are now. So we're now smaller than we were in 1850. We're smaller than when we were formed. So I'm not saying that we need to go away, but pretty soon we will. We'll need to consolidate. That horrible thing that happened to our school system and whatnot, it's going to soon happen. We're going to go start folding back into ourselves. just look at, don't do one of these things for Calhoun County. I don't think they may not have 2,000 people in it. I don't even look. There's almost no one there anymore. So, and I find that slightly interesting. I'm sorry, y'all. I clicked on the wrong thing here. Let's see. So older population with African Americans maintaining or increasing their proportion. So really, and they probably would rather leave, but economic issues and whatnot are probably keeping them there. And this older population's not going to be, if they're not, that's not being replaced. Everybody's leaving. Aging population, out-migration, limited growth opportunities. So, I can do reports like this on other things for people in the government or whatever. If y'all are interested in trying to dig your way out of this, absolutely. But the county is falling, and I'm like I said, 10 years ago, I kind of came in with some ideas just for my own little community and stuff. And I ran into one of the reasons that people leave Dallas County, and so anyway. And so I don't really have any ideas anyway now. I think most of the ideas that I had at the time would have just been piecemeal things, So I'm not telling you to leave, but I'm not telling you to stay. So we need to do something, y'all. Though, and I would love to be a part of some effort to keep our place together, but I think it's bigger than us. I don't think it's just Dallas County. I think it's just entire southern Arkansas. Really, the only thing that's keeping Grant County going is their proximity to Pulaski County. So, all right. Sorry to leave this on a bad note. Hey, it's a beautiful county if we kind of quit timbering it just to death, but that's where the money's at, isn't it? All right, I'll shut up now. Have a good day. Bye-bye.